Welcome to today's class. Anybody who is just logging on, it's Brittany with Rainmaker Marketing. And today's class, we're going to be going over the Teams platforms. So just as a reminder, this is going to be 100% team focused. So if you are not set up as a team or not recognized as a team by your office, you will not have access to these platforms. If you're still waiting for your team's platform or your team platforms to go live, they do generally take about 72 hours. So if your office just set you up as a team, chances are they're still launching. So don't panic. You guys can come back and check out the recording once they are available. Everything that I am doing today will be done through command. So I'm going to be logging in through agent.kw.com in order to access the command dashboard. And I'm also going to be logging in as a Rainmaker. So what that means is I'm logging in as essentially the owner of the team. So they have access to absolutely everything. If you are set up on a team as an agent or administrative staff, you may not have access to the same features that I'm pulling up. So just kind of keep that in mind. Some of the editing that we'll be going over and how to edit the team itself, you may not be able to access that. I'm going to go ahead and get logged in. And then for anybody who is watching the recording, I've also hyperlinked my team notes underneath this video. So if you guys are watching the recording after the fact, there is a Google Doc shared right underneath this clip, and it will go over all of the team functions. Everything is typed out for you just in case you need them. Once we are logged into command, the first thing I recommend checking is to confirm that your team platforms are live. In order to do that, we're just going to click on our name in the top right-hand corner, and we're just going to confirm that we have two profiles. You'll notice that when you click on your name, you'll essentially have a personal profile and you'll have a team profile. These might be swapped, meaning your team profile might be your default, your personal might be your secondary account. That's completely fine. You just want to make sure that you essentially have two profiles, and that will let you know that you are set up as a team. Once you guys have confirmed that, we're going to go ahead and jump into the settings portion. And this is going to be going over all of the back end of command. I'm just going to show you guys the differences between a team account and a personal account, so you know where to find everything. So we're just going to go ahead and click on settings. Once our settings account or settings platform loads, the first section we're going to be diving into is our general settings right on the top left. And you'll notice when I expand this, I'm only seeing default account. However, if I switch to my team account, you'll notice I'm also on my personal. If I switch to my team account, this will refresh and I all of a sudden have team management. So most of what we're going over today, we're going to be on our team profile. So if you're not yet on that team profile, just make sure that you are clicking over to that. You can just toggle back and forth. And that way you'll have access to all of the team functions that we're going through. And one big thing I do want to mention before even diving into that, in regards to settings and most of the platforms that we are on today, if you are on any one of these tabs or you're under settings and you're trying to edit something, make sure you have the correct profile selected. So in other words, if I'm on the personal account and I go through all of my settings on the left-hand side, they will actually have different settings set up on that personal account than I will on my team account. So making sure that you're on the correct profile for what you're trying to edit will play a huge role in this section. Now that I'm on my team account, I'm going to go ahead and first select default account just to kind of show you guys what that looks like. Default account is exactly what it sounds like. It's allowing you to select whichever account you'd like to be your default. All that means is when you log into command, if you want it to automatically pull up your team account, you can select the bubble for your team. As you saw today, when I logged in, Connie has her personal account set up. So all it does is when I log in, it automatically drops me on her personal account. By changing this, it doesn't mean you can't toggle back and forth. However, if you're going to be primarily running out of that team account, you can select that as your team or your default platform. That way you don't have to toggle back and forth as much. Underneath that, we have team management. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. This is going to be something that primarily only someone with unlimited permissions and or a Rainmaker will have access to. So if you are set up as the Rainmaker, you have full editable access for this section. If you are set up with unlimited access, as you can see, she has both of her agents on her team set up as unlimited. They have access to come into this section, but they will not have the same editable access as a Rainmaker. This section is primarily for a Rainmaker to not only see who is currently associated with their team, but it also allows them to add additional members. So this is huge. If you guys are on a team that is looking to maybe bring on an administrator, or maybe you have a marketing consultant or a transaction coordinator, anything along those lines, if they are not going to be run through the office, meaning that your office is not going to be adding them into Winmore, they're not going to be recognizing them as a staff member or an agent, maybe they're not licensed, but you just have somebody who's going to need access to a command platform that's linked to yours. Rainmakers have access to create those accounts. So this is very helpful when it comes time to set something like that up. And I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. We also have a tip video that goes over this. If you need that specifically, it goes a little bit more in depth. But if you are looking to add essentially a guest user as the Rainmaker, they can log in here and click on Add Member under our team management section. Keep in mind, if you are a mega team and you happen to have more than one Rainmaker, you actually get 2 admin or essentially 2 guest spots per Rainmaker. So if you are on, say, a mega team that maybe has 2 or 3 Rainmakers, that would give you 4 or 6 guest spots on your team, which is, again, just something helpful in case you guys ever need that. I'm going to go ahead and click on Add Member. Once we get this pop-up, you'll notice that you have a drop-down list that has 2 options. You have one that says Add Team Member and one that says Add Guest User. If you select Add Team Member, what that's going to do is it's going to notify your Market Center administrator. It's going to let them know that you want this person to be added into Winmore, and it's going to prompt them to do so. That being said, my personal recommendation would be to touch base with your Market Center administrator personally before submitting something like this, because they will obviously need to onboard that agent as an actual agent as well. So there's a lot of paperwork involved. In regards to a guest user, this will allow you to add a guest user to your account without going through the Market Center. So what it essentially does is it creates a guest username and password, and it directly piggybacks off of the Rainmaker's account. So it gives them access to the team platforms. It won't give them a Keller Williams email. It will not give them a DocuSign account. It won't allow them to sign up for one, but it gives them access to team contacts. It gives them access to create marketing materials, designs, campaigns, smart plans, things like that. They will be able to do under the team profile, so you will have continued access. So this is kind of a great tool if you guys are looking to take on an admin, marketing consultant, anything along those lines. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Add Guest User just to show you guys again what that looks like. And once this pops up, you'll notice that it does mention you do have 2 seats available. If you've already set up a guest user, chances are they're showing up in the background as a team member, which means this may only say you have 1 available. That would be why. You'll also notice that it does take 72 hours for these to go live. So if you have an admin that's maybe starting on Monday, you may want to set this up now just to ensure everything is live by the time they start. That being said, it will still notify your Market Center that you're adding this person to your team, but it's more so a heads up instead of a request for them to do anything. So if your Market Center does get an email and they touch base with you, it's just a confirmation to make sure this was done intentionally. For this, you'll have your first name, last name. You'll be adding in the administrators or marketing rep, whatever role they'll be filling. You'd put in their first name and last name, and then whatever email address they will be using as a part of the team. So if you guys have maybe created a custom email for them, or if you set up maybe an alias email that's linked to one of your KW emails, whatever it may be, whatever email is put here is going to be where your confirmation for this account goes. So it's definitely something that you want to pay attention to. It's also going to put all of their notifications. So as they're kind of updating things, maybe they're setting up opportunities for you, they're handling transactions, all notifications for what they're doing will go to this email. So you want to make sure that they have access to it. For the password, this is very, very important. Remember the password that you set up. You cannot reset the passwords to these accounts at this time. And it's actually to protect the team. So if you do have a third party that's going to be logging into this account, whether it's a, administrative assistant, marketing rep, maybe it's a virtual tech, whatever it may be, they cannot change the password to this account. So you will always know the password to this account if you ever need to log in. So keep in mind when you set this up, pick something that you will remember, write it down, because in order to change the password, you need to completely delete the account and recreate it, which is kind of a pain. So just keep that in mind. Once you've added in all of the required information, you just agree to the terms and conditions below and send the request. It does take the full 72 hours. It is 2 overnight feeds that it will need to go through in order for this account to go live. And what will happen is once it is live, not only will they show up under a team member section, but it will also send over an email with both the username and the email address notated, first name, last name. It kind of gives you a similar email that Winmore provides to you if you guys have ever seen that email. So it just kind of says, hey, a new guest user has been added to your account under this first name and last name linked with this email, and the password is blank and the username is blank. So once you guys get that, that means they can start logging in. I'm going to X out of this. If you also have a guest user on your account, maybe you set one up previously, which is completely fine. You'll also notice that you have the first name, email, and it actually has their username right here as well. She does not have any guest users set up, so it's not set up currently, but you'll notice if you ever need to just reconfirm the username, as they are a little bit unique, they're usually very long. They also have the word guest in them with a bunch of numbers. So if you ever need to confirm that username, they're tucked in right under your team member section. The next thing I want to touch base on in this platform, or on this platform specifically under team management, is permissions. So you'll notice here that we have all of our permissions set up. Rainmakers as a default are always set up as unlimited. That being said, as the Rainmaker, they also have access to change permissions for other members on the team. They can set them up with either standard, which is the default, enhanced, which gives them essentially access to run everything through the command team platform. And then there's also unlimited. Depending on what this person will need access to will depend what type of permissions you should be setting them up with. I'm going to deep dive into that, and I'm going to go over all of the breakdowns with you guys as well. But before that, I just also want to mention the role. The role that you guys see on this section really does not do anything other than give them a vanity role located here. And it will also auto-populate if you go to add the Meet the Team page to your website. Completely customizable on that page. So if this role is a little bit wonky, or it's just not the verbiage that you're using, maybe they're not an administrative assistant, but they're a marketing director, you can edit that as far as what your clients will see. This is more so how they were added into the team platform by your market center administrator. So again, it doesn't play a role in really anything. However, administrative assistants are just limited in regards to what they can do, because an administrative assistant is assumed to be unlicensed. So if they are looking to have like a mobile app, they're looking to have specific things under the team platform, you may want to touch base with your market center administrator and have them bumped up to either a lead associate or whatever specialists they will be. There is a full printout of options for that under the notes that I shared with you guys. So if you do need those, they're hyperlinked there, as there are a ton of options. Now for permissions, I'm just going to go ahead and click on the permissions tab. If you guys do not have access to this, maybe you're set up as an agent or you're set up just without unlimited permissions, I'll also send over the hyperlink for the breakdown provided by Keller Williams International in the chat, just so you guys have it. I'm going to go ahead and click on permissions. The preview here, it gives you a quick overview. You have unlimited, enhanced, standard, and it just kind of breaks down what you're going to have access to. Standard obviously being the lowest. This is the automated permission that is set up. So if you add somebody to your team, as a default, they will be set up as standard unless you are adding another Rainmaker. They will automatically be unlimited and that cannot be changed. You also have enhanced, which essentially gives them access to all of the team platforms. However, some of the editing they will be unable to do. And then you have unlimited, where they essentially have access to everything. It mirrors as much of the Rainmaker's access as possible. However, again, there are going to be some sections that only a Rainmaker will have access to. For the full permissions breakdown, we have this right here. And this is also hyperlinked in the notes that I shared in the chat. And if you guys are watching the recording, this is hyperlinked right underneath the video. You guys have access to all of this, and it breaks down what each permission is going to have access to. Now, just taking a quick look here, you'll notice that obviously unlimited is going to have all of the access for team management. So if there's specific things, for example, you have an administrator that's going to be handling a lot of the back end of the team, giving them unlimited access may make the most sense. If you have maybe a marketing executive that's going to be joining, marketing coordinator, enhanced generally covers most of it. If you have somebody who is maybe not working out of the team platform, maybe you guys are just jumping into the team platform, standard will be fine. But keep in mind, if you are setting up a team and you are planning on using the team platform, you're planning on running your opportunities, your contacts, your marketing, smart plans, emails, all of that out of the team platform, by leaving someone as standard, it's blocking them from most of that. They will not have access to most of those platforms. One huge thing with leaving someone as standard is if they go to import their contacts into the team, they actually release their ownership. So they're handing those contacts over to the team. So keep that in mind, because that is huge. Again, so if you guys are funneling a lot of your business out of the team platform, you may want to bump them up to enhanced. It will give them access to utilize all of the smart plans. They can have access to edit them, essentially set their contacts up on them, send out email campaigns. You'll notice standard has access to none of that. Designs, they'll have access to collaborate and use templates, but that's it. They won't have access to manage brand assets, create anything, copy anything provided by KWRI, just something to keep in mind. Generally, when we have teams reach out, it's because of the permission setup. So that's just something to keep an eye out for. And again, this is all hyperlinked right in the notes for you guys. If I pull up the notes really quick, it's right at the top. So understanding team permissions goes over it, and then this is the actual breakdown for you. Once we're back here in command, I'm going to go ahead and click on my command settings. We're just going to kind of go down this, and I'll go over the differences between personal and team, just so you guys have a quick overview on this. So once we expand command settings, applications, this is generally going to be the same for your personal and your team. The beauty of this is it automatically kind of defaults no matter what. So as long as you have these systems linked up, you'll be good to go. In regards to social media, there is a section where you can actually select the designated profile that has access to your social media connections, which we'll go over. But everything else like Dotloop, DocuSign, your mails, this is only for personal anyways. The team cannot see anything under the productivity as of right now. But everything else it's default. It will automatically kind of toggle between profiles as you do. For our contact section, for the contact archive, this is huge. So if you guys are archiving contacts under the team platform or your personal platform, personal database, if you guys are archiving any contacts, they will stay under that profile. So you'll notice here that we have a couple of archived contacts. And if I toggle back to her personal, it's different contacts. So if you ever go to delete archived contacts, make sure you are on the profile that you're trying to delete them from. That way you can make sure that they're being deleted properly and you're not accidentally deleting the wrong contacts. This actually goes the same for database wipe, which is huge. You do have access to wipe your entire database. I highly, highly, highly recommend exporting your contacts before doing this. I would export them from every profile as well, just in case to have a hard copy. But you do have access to archive all contacts and delete all archive contacts on a mass scale. So this is a great tool to know that it exists. However, it does also essentially delete based on the profile you are on. So make sure you are on the correct profile before clicking either of these buttons. The next section is our contact tags. You'll notice that your tags will differ based on the profile that you're on. So whether you're on the team profile, on her personal profile, she has 29, team profile, she has 31. So some of those are different. That being said, as far as creating tags, that is something that will be based on your permissions. The Rainmaker will always have access to come in here and create tags, edit tags, delete tags, as long as they are not associated with contacts under the team database. But you do have access to customize those here. A huge thing that we will be going over once we dive into the actual contact portion, but I want to mention it here as well, because it is something that I want everyone to take into consideration. If you have contacts under your personal database and you move them from your personal database to the team database, what that is going to do is it's going to keep using the personal tag that you set up. It will not automatically retag with the team tag. So those would essentially remain on your account as what they call a legacy tag, which just means that the tag was originally set up under your personal database and it's essentially been relocated to the team database. You can still filter by those. However, I do want to make sure that it is clear that if for some reason you have, say, a contact under your personal database, they're tagged as agent, and you move that profile over to the team database, it will not automatically use the team tag agent. It will remain under the legacy tag. So that's something just to keep in mind. And we'll go over that more once we get into the contact section, but I know that's a question that we get regularly when we start talking about the tags portion. Underneath that, we also have lead sources and custom fields. Both of these can be edited by the Rainmaker or anybody with unlimited permissions. Exact same as your personal database. You have access to come in here and add custom lead sources or custom fields. Custom fields is something definitely to take into consideration. It's kind of a cool feature, which I feel like a lot of agents don't realize it exists. If you guys have specific information that you're capturing for your clients, you have access to then add that to your database. I've seen everything from favorite pie, if they're doing like a pie giveaway around Thanksgiving, to favorite sport, to kids' names, kids' ages, kids' birthdays, anything along those lines. You guys can actually add a custom field. And it's something along the lines of you can create a name. It allows you to select the type of field that it needs to be. And then it automatically adds it to your contact profiles going forward. You do need to manually add this information to those profiles. It cannot be imported. It also will not be exported, which is something to keep in mind. But you can essentially use this as either an additional notes field or whatever information you're trying to get added. So just something to keep in mind. And again, this is available on your personal database as well. We also have lead routing. So we just did a tip video specifically on lead routing. So I will, it's added into the notes. I would recommend taking a look at it. I'll go over a quick overview in regards to what this is. Lead routing, it's exactly what it sounds like. It essentially allows Rainmakers to set up a route. So as leads are captured by the team, they will automatically be routed out to agents. How this is processed has changed a little bit recently as the team campaign section launched. If you guys have been with Keller Williams for an extended period and a part of a team for an extended period, you may remember that campaigns took a little bit longer to launch. So teams launched about a year and a half ago, and campaigns actually just launched about 2 months ago. So now you guys have access to run team campaigns. That being said, as leads are captured by those campaigns being run as a team, they will be essentially routed via the lead routing tool if you have that set up. So all it does is it takes some of that responsibility off of the Rainmaker to manually delegate those leads out, and it will allow them to set this up so it happens automatically. Makes things a little bit easier for you guys. If you guys are setting this up or you have questions or you're just unsure how to kind of navigate it specifically for your team, by all means, shoot us an email and we can take a look at your account for you. That's not an issue at all. If you guys have already set one of these up, maybe you have an active one, or if you have any sitting under paused or archived, you can always come in here and reactivate, permanently delete, or essentially just unpause them. You also have access to edit them. So just keep that in mind. But if you haven't set these up yet, I definitely recommend taking a look at the tip video, because again, it's just going to auto route your leads, which makes things a little bit easier and makes sure that your leads are being contacted within a timely manner. That way they're not sitting in lead pool, just kind of waiting for someone to reach out to them. So it's a great option for teams. Underneath that, we have our opportunity settings. Client update, this is going to be the exact same as your personal platform. You guys have access to now set up client updates. You'll notice you do have 2 tabs, one to set up for your personal, one to set up for your team. If this is something you guys are interested in, we do have a fantastic tip video that dives into this as well, and just goes over how to set that up and what it essentially will do. It's just going to keep your client very informed. I do recommend setting yourself up as a dummy client and doing it for yourself first before you do this on a mass scale, just so you can see how often these emails come out, because it is a lot. So just make sure that you understand how many times you're going to be emailing your client before you set this up on a mass scale. We also have opportunity tags. These are something that some teams are using. I haven't seen a lot of teams utilizing this, which is completely fine. It's essentially just a tag that you can add to your opportunities. This is something that the Rainmaker can create for the team. If you guys maybe have, maybe you're splitting teams, maybe you're a team that focuses a lot on referrals, maybe you want to add a referral tag, whatever makes life easier for you guys, you can make this as organized as you'd like. So you do have access to add those as well. It will just allow you to filter your opportunities based on tag. You also have opportunity archive, same thing as your personal database. You guys can come in here and restore these if you need to. Team permissions, this is huge. So I want to go over this really quick. We're under opportunity settings and team permissions. Rainmakers will be the only ones who have access to this. This is essentially allowing your team members to either create private opportunities or to not create private opportunities. A private opportunity would just be an opportunity or a transaction that is done outside of the team. So if you have an agent who is maybe transitioning to the team, you may want to enable that while they're getting their feet wet so they can still see their existing opportunities. Otherwise, you're essentially blocking them from seeing opportunities that are still closing. And same with vice versa. If you have somebody who is leaving the team, you may want to enable that. So as they're kind of getting ready to leave the team, they don't have to keep creating new transactions under the team, causing that process to essentially continue. Enabling or disabling private opportunities is completely up to you guys. I've also seen teams that allow opportunities to be run through just the agent and outside of the team. That's also fine. It's completely how you guys have your team set up. So it's up to you guys, but this is how you can enable and disable that feature. Recurring deductions aren't teams. And then we also have, I'm going to minimize this, campaigns. So underneath campaigns, we have default campaign accounts. This is a newer feature. This just launched about 2 months ago. This is directly related to team campaigns. So this is pretty cool. It allows you guys now to select the default account for your campaigns. So for paid ads, she has access to essentially decide which account is going to be linked to the team. So if she had multiple pages linked up, she could use that specific page when running a campaign under the team profile versus maybe her personal business page on Facebook that she may use when running a paid ads through her personal profile. So it just allows you guys to kind of delegate those profiles out in order to avoid confusion. So as you guys are adding in accounts, maybe you're using one page as a team, but you also want to run paid ads on your personal account, completely fine. Just keep in mind that you can set up your designated profile back here. and make sure that your team profile is selected here. And then when you're running any campaign, as long as you're on your personal profile, it will automatically select that other profile for you. There's also a drop-down list where you can toggle. So you guys have full access to that. But essentially, if you take one thing away from class today, the biggest thing you want to pay attention to is just making sure which profile you're on, and always double check the profile that you're selecting before really doing anything detrimental to your account, deleting contacts, importing contacts, even creating designs or creating email campaigns or smart plans. If you're intending that to be on your personal database, make sure you have the personal profile selected or vice versa. The next section is our smart plans. We have designated agents. This is something that only unlimited access or unlimited permissions are going to have access to. So if you don't see this, don't panic. But this is something that you may want to confirm with your Rainmaker, because what this is going to do is it's going to allow them to select the designated agent that will have access to send out marketing on that team platform. So as of right now, Connie has it set up so all tasks, this is specific to smart plans, will be automatically assigned to whoever is assigned to that contact profile. So if you have John Smith in the team account as a client and you add them to a smart plan and it is assigned to Leah, Leah will be the one who sees all of those tasks. However, if John Smith is on that team database and they're assigned to Leah, she also has it set up so all emails and SMS messages are coming from Connie. So what that means is if Leah adds her contact that she may own and is also assigned to, however, it happens to be under the team database, and she adds them to a smart plan, what's going to happen is that smart plan is going to send emails out as Connie. It's going to send text messages out as Connie. It's also going to use Connie's allowance for command mail, and it's also going to use Connie's allowance for Twilio. So that's something to keep in mind. If you have agents on your team that are obviously looking to send out marketing with their own branding, you may want to toggle this to be contact assignee. It will essentially use their allowance for command mail, but it will also brand all of the emails as them. Same thing for SMS and MMS. If you are planning on using your own Twilio accounts, as long as the agent has Twilio set up, it will essentially just send it out as them. If they don't have Twilio set up, it just won't send the message out at all. So if you are looking to update that, this is where that's done. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. If you do make changes, make sure that you are clicking save changes as well. Last but not least, we have our connect settings, which is our marketing profile. Marketing profile, chances are most of you already have this set up. If you're logging in here and you're not seeing anything has been added, please let us know and we can actually set this up for you. I definitely recommend going through this and just making sure that it does look correct. This will remain the same whether you are on your personal profile or your team profile. You just want to make sure that maybe your team name is added. If you guys are sharing a team website, you may want to make sure that's added. Everything else will essentially be your information. So you just want to comb through, make sure that everything looks good to go. And again, if you guys have questions, just shoot us a message. Also social media, if you guys are sharing pages instead of using your own, you can plug those in here. Once you guys have kind of just spot checked that, make sure that you click save all the way down at the bottom. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on our contacts section. So we're going to dive into team contacts and go over some of those options. And if you guys ever question which icon is related to what, white KW in the red square, that will label all of them for you, make it a little bit easier. I'm going to go ahead and click on contacts. So for the contact section with teams specifically, there are a lot of differences for this section based on your personal versus your team profile. If you have started dabbling with this section, and as always, if you have questions, if you're trying to do something specific and you're having any trouble with it, if you're getting an error message, please just let us know. We're happy to take a look at your account. But one thing I do want to mention now is if you guys ever do anything under the contact section and you get a massive 403 error. It's just the number 403, and it usually has a little privacy message underneath it. What that means is your permissions are not allowing you to do what you're trying to do. It just means that you're being blocked due to that permission level. So anytime you guys see 403, that's a permission related issue. So if you guys are seeing that, shoot us a message. We can always take a look and see if there's a workaround, or if it would need to, or if it would require your Rainmaker to change your permissions. But once we are under our contacts section, I'm already on my team database. So I'm seeing contacts that are already in my team. I'm going to toggle over to my personal profile really quick, just to show you guys how to move contacts over. And I'm going to give you guys a couple of options on how to do that. So one way is to essentially either mass select your contacts, and you can change account. This will allow you to move these contacts to your team database. This is not essentially the best way to do it. I would not highly recommend this, only because this is going to cause those legacy tags for you. So as a workaround, another way to do this would be to actually export your contacts and just import them into the team database. Keep in mind, with your permissions, as long as you are set up with enhanced permissions or higher, you're good to go. It's going to let you import those and maintain ownership. If you are set up with standard permissions and you export your contacts and import them into the team, you will get a prompt that will essentially show you that you are giving your contacts to the team. Admins as well, if you are set up as an admin or you are set up as a guest user, you will not have access to import contacts and maintain ownership. That is something just with the admin status. So if you see that, don't panic. That is why guest accounts cannot own contacts. If you are looking to maybe just move one contact or two contacts over, you can also do this on an individual scale just by selecting it and changing account. One thing I do want to mention, and this is, I'm glad this popped up. If you guys have contacts that look like this, you have the green check mark. Those cannot, will not, should not be moved over to the team account. Leave them in your personal account. If you are seeing a green check mark, this means that this contact profile has created a consumer login and has chosen you as their agent. What that means, and I'm going to open it up so you guys can see it really quick. We went over this last week on the mobile app class, so if you guys saw that. But once I open this profile, you'll notice on the right-hand side, it's giving me all of this information, what this person's looked at, when they've logged in and logged out of my website, some of their favorites. It's giving me access to all of that. It's allowing them to send me messages through the app. That is what that green check mark means. It means that they have created a consumer login and they've chosen you as their agent. So by moving this contact over to the team, you lose all of this access. If you delete this contact and recreate it under the team, you lose all of this access. You can, however, as a workaround, create a duplicate under the team. Team platforms have recently started allowing some duplicates. It's been a little bit finicky, but we have seen agents able to create a duplicate contact under that team database, allowing them to keep this profile where it is. So you'll still have full access. Keep in mind, if you do have a duplicate contact under your team database and one under your personal database, they will not communicate with one another. So in other words, this would be one contact profile, and the one that you manually add under the team would be another independent contact profile. They do not link with one another at all. So that's just something to keep in mind. Let me go back really quick. As far as tags go, you'll notice that all of my tags are populating here. And as I move them over, I'm going to select one of the contacts and I'll move it over just to show you guys how that legacy tag will populate. But you'll notice that these are all tagged here. So I'm going to go ahead and select one contact. And I'll go ahead and change account. And I'm just going to select my team account and I'll change. And you'll notice it disappears instantly, which is perfect. If I go to search for the account, it's not coming up. However, you'll notice that my little bar here prompts me and says, looking for more, there's one contact under your team account, which contains this search. So I'm going to go ahead and just switch to my team account. It's the same thing as toggling over. However, by clicking switch to team account, it will already pull this contact profile. So it's making things a little easier for me. So I'll click switch to team, and here's my contact that I just moved over. And you'll notice here, they already have a team class because I've kind of this contact I bumped back and forth. But you'll notice if I scroll all the way over, I also have my legacy tags. If you're not seeing legacy tags as one of your columns, you can manually add that just by clicking customize columns under your team profile. And then just locate legacy tags. It's usually towards the bottom. And you can also change the order. So if you want legacy tags to be right next to tags just to make things easier, you can drag and drop it and update that. Do apply. And then I'm just going to save my view. That way it will lock that in for me. And then you'll notice now I have my tags and then my legacy tags. So you'll notice that legacy tags are still filterable. They're still clickable. So if I'm to click a tag, what will happen is it's going to pull up all of the contacts that have that tag. So it looks like he's the only one who's actually filtered with that. But if you guys do want to look for a tag, I'll delete his name. There we go. So now it pulls up everybody who's tagged as such. So they are still filterable. You guys can just click on the tag and it will pull them up for you. But just keep in mind that they will not merge. So you'll notice, for example, there's another SLM tag. It's all caps on this side. And then our legacy tag is lowercase. If you moved contacts over to the team account and you're looking to undo that, there is no mass undo for this process as of right now. So for example, you'll notice that owner, the first thing you'd want to check is make sure that you're the owner of the contact. You can also filter these. So if you're looking at way more contacts than 8, you can go ahead and use the filter option. And you'll notice that you have an ownership option. You also have an assignee option. So you have access to pull both of these. You can pull based on ownership. So if you're looking for contacts that somebody else owns and you're the Rainmaker, you have access to pull that up. If you are not set up as the Rainmaker and you're not set up with unlimited access, I don't believe enhanced access has access to pull by other owners. But I know that they've been making some updates. So that might be something that you'll see soon. You also have access to pull up the assignee, and you also have collaborator options. This is something I wanted to touch upon really quick, specifically if you guys have admins that you're adding to the team, transaction coordinators, anything along those lines. If they're going to need access to specific contact profiles, you can add them as a collaborator, meaning it's not going to adjust the ownership. It's not going to adjust the assigned agent. It's not going to start sending smart plans out as them. It's just essentially giving them access to that contact profile so they can add notes, they can see contact information, they can add them to smart plans and email campaigns for you. But that's really all it's going to give them access to. They also don't have access to really edit information. So it just kind of gives them access to kind of help you with that contact profile. So if that's something that you guys need, that can be done as well. I'm going to go ahead and X out of filters. For the collaborator, I'm just going to go ahead and open a contact profile just to show you guys where that will show up. And really anything for the contact profile itself, if you guys ever get stuck in regards to figuring out where it came from, what account it's associated with, owner, assignee, it's all populating here. You'll also notice that Leah is already added as a collaborator on this profile. So what it means is even if Leah is set up with standard permissions, she will have access to see this contact profile. She'll have access to see everything on here, which is great. If I wanted to edit this information, I can just click on my pencil at the top. And you'll notice that right kind of on that main section, you have access to not only change the assignee, you can also send it to lead routing or lead pool. And you also have access to edit the collaborator or add collaborators. You can have more than one. So you have access to edit that as well. So keep in mind, you guys do have full access to adjust this. So if you guys do accidentally change something, you can always come in here and update it. Cancel. You also have access to release ownership, which I would not really recommend, only because that's going to literally release your ownership for the contact profile. If you accidentally claimed a contact, that would be a great opportunity to release ownership. Otherwise, I would leave it as is. Last but not least, in the contact profile under the team, if you do need to move a contact back to your original account, You can change contact profile, but this has to be done manually. So in other words, I would need to physically open up every single contact profile that I need to move, click on the 3 dots, change account, and it will allow me to move it back or move it to someone else's account. This is going to be giving them that contact, so keep that in mind. So if I were to select Leah, this is going to put it into her personal database and you will no longer have access to it. So keep that in mind as well. I'm gonna go back to my contacts. Last but not least, in the actual contacts section, I want to touch on the lead pool really quick. If you are on your team profile and you see a lead pool, you'll notice you can actually toggle that. You cannot do this on a personal account, or if you are not set up as a team and only have a personal account, it still shows up, but you can't actually click it. Lead pool is essentially a glorified way of saying leads captured by the team. So this means that these leads were captured strictly through the team platform. They are team leads. They are essentially owned by the team and can be designated out to the agents on the team. You have access to assign these out. You can add to smart plan, assign to, send to lead routing, whatever you'd like. If you have a lead route set up and you happen to have leads that maybe were sitting here, for example, these are a little bit old. If you have leads that are maybe just hanging out in the lead pool section and you want to send those through lead pool or through lead route, you can do that on a mass scale. So you can essentially select them and send to lead routing. And what it will do is it will take the leads that are sitting in lead pool and it will funnel them through that route. So depending on who is set up for whatever source, or if you set them up to go out at a specific time or all to go to one person, however you set up that route, it will allow it to run through that actual route for you, rather than having to go through and manually assign those out, which is kind of nice. You also have access to, if you are an agent and you are set up with enhanced permissions, you have access to claim a lead as well. As the Rainmaker, it looks a little bit different, doesn't give me the same access because Rainmakers are generally not claiming leads, but you do have access to claim a lead. If you are having trouble opening lead profiles, so for example, you toggle to lead pool, you're seeing them here, you go to open it and you get that 403 error, that means that you are set up with standard permissions. Only enhanced permissions and higher have access to physically see the contact profiles under lead pool. So if you are looking to assign yourself or you need to be assigned, that is something that the Rainmaker would need to do manually. So if you do have leads that kind of went through maybe the route, maybe your team wasn't quick enough and they ended up going to lead pool, you can resend them back to the lead route in order to get them assigned to someone. You can also come in here as the Rainmaker or anyone with enhanced plus permissions, they can claim the contact and it will essentially assign it to them. So that's just something to keep in mind. Go back to contacts. Last but not least, I'm going to jump into opportunities. We may go a couple of minutes over, so I apologize, but I'm going to jump into the opportunity section just to go over what that looks like for teams. As you guys do have some really cool features under there. And then I will go over really quick just the different tabs that have the toggling ability for your profile to go between personal and team, just so you guys can kind of make a mental note which ones give you that option. So I'm going to go ahead and click on opportunities, which is the handshake icon. Once this section loads, chances are this may look pretty familiar to some of you. You'll notice that once your team or your opportunity section loads, being on your team or your personal is not going to change this. Thankfully, they are set up on their own tabs. So if you're seeing your team profile as the only one, maybe you only have the team and then all opportunities, all discussions, all that means is that your Rainmaker has not enabled private opportunities to be created. As the Rainmaker, this will automatically remain. You don't have to run anything through it, but as a Rainmaker, you'll automatically have access to private opportunities. That will stay there no matter what. But as long as you guys are on that team tab, it's going to allow you to create those team opportunities. So I'm going to go ahead and create kind of like a dummy opportunity just to go through the process with you guys so you can see what it looks like. So when I'm on that team tab, I'm just going to go ahead and click on create opportunity. The first thing you're going to see as a dropdown, and this is for anyone, doesn't matter if you're on a team or not, market center. If you're with more than one market center, you'll want to make sure that you're selecting the correct one, especially if you're with more than one market center and your team is also with more than one market center. Make sure you are selecting the correct one. If you are with multiple market centers and maybe your team is only with one of them, you'll notice that if you select a market center that isn't associated with your team, it will automatically gray this out and make you do a personal opportunity. So the system is smart enough to see that, which is great, which hopefully will help prevent any mishaps with opportunities, because once you do click on create, there is no editing the actual market center or the team or the owner. So this would have to be completely recreated. Oh, also the client. So essentially from here up is uneditable once you click on that create button. Once you confirm that you have the right market center, you should see your team name as well, and you'll notice it automatically checks that off for us. And then we have our opportunity type. You would just select whichever one pertains to that opportunity. We're going to click on listing. And then we have our owner. You'll notice that automatically, even if you're logged in as an agent, an admin, whatever it may be, if you're creating an opportunity under the team, the owner of that opportunity is always going to be the Rainmaker. This does not mean that you don't have access to the transaction. It just means that overall they are the owner because it's being done under the team platform. So that's all that means. You'll still have access to the opportunity to run it through everything, move it down the opportunity pipeline. You'll have access to all of that. The next section is your client. One thing I do want to mention, when you guys are adding a client into an opportunity, they do need to be under that database. So if we're creating a team opportunity, the client needs to be in the team database. If you're creating a private opportunity, the client would need to be in your personal database. So that's something to keep in mind depending on where you're creating that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull. I have profiles, I think, in both of hers. Oh, I have a bunch. Then for our opportunity name, I'm just going to put, just so she knows this is not a real opportunity. And then we have our estimated close date, just like normal opportunities, estimated listing price, any information you guys have, you can add. This is where your custom tags come in. So if you have a tag you want to use, you can plug that in as well. Our commission percent, I'll put 6. And then opportunity phase, I'm going to leave that as cultivate, but you guys do have access to edit this. You also have access to edit the opportunity stage, which will differ based on what your phase is as well. So I'll leave that as meet acquaintance. And then you'll notice assignees at the bottom. Assignees is where you're going to want to make sure that your name is added if you are the agent working on this account. So in other words, if you're a transaction coordinator and you're helping a team out and you're doing their opportunities for them, you'll want to make sure that your name populates here, because what that's going to do is it's going to give you continued access to the opportunity. So if you guys have an admin or anybody on the team that is going to need access to this, make sure that you are adding them in. So as Connie, Leah is essentially their admin. I would select Leah. That way she'll have access and be notified that this was created. Otherwise, Leah will have no idea. She won't have access to it. She won't see it. Only the Rainmaker sees all of the team opportunities. If you are not set up as the Rainmaker, you will only see and have access to opportunities that you are manually added as an assignee to. This is something that you can go back and edit, so don't panic. If you did already set up an opportunity and you're realizing you didn't add your transaction coordinator, 100% editable. So we can add that person in, you can even remove them. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that. But I just want to make sure you know this is what the assignee means. It doesn't just mean the agent that's working that transaction. It means anybody who you know is going to need access. You don't technically have to add the Rainmaker. You can, but you don't have to, because they will automatically have access to every opportunity created under the team. And it automatically adds the person who's creating it as well. So I'm logged in as Connie, so it's automatically adding Connie as an assignee. The transaction coordinator is creating it. It's automatically going to add them as an assignee. They would want to manually add the agent. I'm going to go ahead and click on create. And I know this is a ton of information, so if you guys do have questions, just let me know. And she doesn't have DocuSign linked up properly right now, so we're getting the error message. If you guys get that as well, it's a DocuSign issue. As of right now, and I'll mention this just in case you guys are seeing this, as of right now, if you guys have Dotloop and DocuSign connected, it actually isn't letting you do anything. You would need to disconnect one of them. You can either have Dotloop or DocuSign connected under settings. So if you're planning on using DocuSign going forward, just disconnect Dotloop and that will go away. It is something that we customize. So I just got a question saying opportunity stage. I don't have meet acquaintance. Is that something that we customized? It is. And I'm going to show you guys how to edit that in a second too. So you guys will have access to add that in if you'd like. Once I created my opportunity, so if you guys are in a situation where you've created the opportunity, you realize you forgot to add that assignee, it's all under the details page. So once you guys locate that opportunity, go to the details page, click on that little pencil, and you have access to add or remove assignees from that opportunity. So you guys can edit that right here. As for the opportunity itself, you also have access to pull up any of your checklists and also client updates and discussion. For checklists, if you guys have not yet set those up, I'm going to show you guys where those are because that is where that opportunity stage pulled from. So I'm going to show you guys where those are and how to edit them really quick. If you guys are looking to set up checklists, we also have a very in-depth tip video that goes over all of this as well. It is fantastic because checklists are going to make things a lot easier for teams because it's going to allow you guys to organize the tasks that need to be done for these clients. You can assign them out, you can delegate them out, you can set due dates, you can make them as intricate as you'd like or as general as you'd like. It gives you guys a lot of wiggle room to keep things organized. So I'm going to go, I'm just going to refresh opportunities just to make sure that little group, the error goes away. And now from here, I'm just going to open up whichever section I'm essentially going to want to create my checklist for first. So I'm just going to start with Cultivate under listings. And once I pull this up, you'll notice on the top right, we have an edit stages button. And if I go ahead and click on edit stages, you'll see here, you guys have access to add stages. You can edit existing stages. You can also create checklists for each stage. This is huge. This is great for teams. So you guys have access to do all of this. This is also something that individual agents have access to. However, teams seem to use this a lot more frequently because you guys have access to just organize everything. So as far as the checklist goes, if I click on that, it just gives you how they have theirs set up. It shows you what they're looking to do, what each task is, client update, whether you want that on or off. They have access to edit or delete, add more items. This is the checklist specifically for that stage. So it's specifically for Cultivate, Meet Acquaintance. We also have one for Form Relationship and then one for Hot. You can also, and I'll go back to my Cultivate. For my next one, Appointment, it's another one. So I have whole new checklists. So again, you guys can make these as intricate or as detailed as you'd like. Each dropdown will have its own options. So you guys can edit that, update that. You can do whatever you'd like with those, which is really cool. Keep in mind that listing will be different. I'll go back to opportunities. Listings will differ from buyers, will differ from leases. So they all have their own checklists. So you guys can set those up individually. And again, you can make them as intricate or as general as you'd like. Last but not least, I'm going to pull up that opportunity that we just made. I'm going to show you guys what it looks like on the actual opportunity. So when I click on my checklist, once I've created those, you'll see it gives me the actual task. I have access to assign that. Maybe I'll assign it to Leah. And as long as I set a due date, it will lock that in and notify Leah. If I do not set a due date, it doesn't do anything. So make sure that you set a due date. As you'll notice, there's no save button. So that due date is essentially the save button. That's going to prompt this person. It's going to let them know it needs to get done. You also can set these up at the beginning, which is kind of cool. So if you want to go through and set them all up at once, you can, and essentially just let them kind of happen as the date is due. That will notify the agent who it's assigned to, or admin or marketing rep. It will let them know that they have that assigned to them. They'll also have access to come in here, X out of this. They'll also have access to come in here and post notes if they need to. Not only do you have the notes tab if you guys aren't using that already, but you also have discussion. Discussion is essentially a chat platform is probably the best way to explain that. I'll click on create discussion for you guys just so you can see it. It's essentially like an instant message that you can use between everybody who is assigned to that opportunity. You have access to tag people. Yeah. It will allow me to mention her and just say, did you see the task? Nice and simple. And then Leah now has access. She'll get a prompt for this. She'll have access to come in here and thumbs up it. She'll have access to pin it. She can come in here and reply, but it will notify her right through the bell icon of command. So she'll have full access to see this. So if there is something, maybe you spoke to the client, but you're running out the door and you want to make sure that this is added, or maybe you went to go and view properties or whatever it may be, you can use this as kind of like a post-it. So it's essentially a post-it that is going to stay with this opportunity with whatever information you need to keep. Go ahead and X out of that. So that's pretty much it for opportunities. The last thing I just want to show you guys really quick, and our marketing class goes over this way more in depth, so feel free to watch that as well. But I just want to mention for smart plans, you'll notice that smart plans do have the 2 separate profiles. So we have our 2 profiles and your smart plans will differ. So if you've set smart plans up under your personal database, they would need to be manually recreated under that team database if you're looking to use them for team contacts. You can essentially also share them, which I've attached a tip video in the notes on how to do that. But keep in mind when you share them, you're actually sharing them with all of Keller Williams. You're not just sharing them with your team. As of right now, there is no way to only share them with your team. It would share them with all of Keller Williams, offices, brokerages, market center staff, everybody would have access to them. So depending on what the plan is, you can definitely share it that way, or you can recreate it under the team platform. You also have access to the library. If you haven't done so already, take a look at the library because those are plans that not only Keller Williams International has given you guys, but also plans that other offices, your peers, staff have actually created and shared with you. You guys have access to then use them and essentially go nuts. You guys can edit them. You guys can make them your own. Again, tip video is hyperlinked in the team class notes if you guys need that. Last but not least, campaigns. Again, our marketing class goes way more in depth for this. So if you guys do need anything on these, definitely take a look at that class. But you also have your campaigns now where you have access to team campaigns. It will automatically prompt you to do your select default accounts. This is going to bring us right back to where we were earlier. So if you haven't set those up yet, you can click on this button and it will bring you back. And then you'll have access to run paid ads, send email campaigns, social posts, all of those will run through your team platform and direct mail. This is really cool because this is a question we've been getting for months. If you run a direct mail platform or a direct mail campaign through your team database, it will actually allow you to pull your contacts from your team database, which is really cool. This was not an option a couple months ago. So you guys do have access to do that now as well. That's pretty much everything. If you guys have questions or if I didn't cover something that you guys need, definitely let us know. Just shoot us an email to our support@scottleroymarketing.com email. And just let us know that you have questions on the team platform. Generally, we will need your command login and or the Rainmaker's command login just to see how things are set up. But if you guys do have questions or anything, just let us know and we can take a look for you. And I appreciate you guys coming to class today, and I hope you guys have a great week.